Guys, this is the developer update regarding Odin for Season 7. There's a couple of gods that will be getting kit reworks of various degrees moving into Season 7. Odin is one of those gods. We're also going to see Ratatasker partially changed, Bastet partially changed, Loki partially changed. I don't know if they've mentioned anybody else. I think there's at least 4 guaranteed partial reworks moving into Season 7. The first one that they have released to talk about is Odin. So this first part, guys, talks about how they decide whether or not a god should be reworked. So in order for a god to be reworked, they need to meet 4 criteria. That being their popularity is significantly low. They have problems with balance, whether they have a very high win rate, very low win rate, whatever. There are community discussions and requests asking for changes about this god in a lot of different places, whether it be Twitter and the Reddit, etc., streams. And their kit has a clear way to be improved, whether it's in regard to thematics, to the Pantheon, clarity of abilities, frustration that comes around from the character. If it meets all 4 of those criterias, they then will move forward to reworking the god, and they rework gods based off of the following constraints. They have no plan to rework a god's complete kit in the foreseeable future, only certain abilities. They will try their best to preserve a god's core playstyle. This refers to the kit as a whole and less to specific abilities. Try not to remove any core features from the kit that are only present in the game on this god, and to be specific about goals for gameplay and the thematic improvements when they're reworking. So that's kind of how they will choose to rework gods and what their aim is when they are reworking those gods. So then they walk through, why does Odin meet those criterias? Odin is the 34th most popular god in Arena, Clash, Joust, and Siege. The 102nd most popular god in Conquest. So I want you to keep that stat in mind because the next stats are going to be amazing. So he is extremely, extremely unpopular. But check this out. This is fun. Balance problems. He's the 4th most winning god in Arena, Clash, Joust, and Siege. And the 5th most winning god in Conquest. And the 12th most winning god in Ranked Conquest. So he is extraordinarily unpopular. Think old Nike. This is exactly old Nike's situation. Old Nike kit was extremely unpopular. Nobody wanted to play nobody wanted to play Nike, but she had a ridiculously high win rate. Just like Odin. Odin isn't played at all, basically, but when he is being played, he's always winning. Which is just a funny thing that can happen in Smite. It doesn't happen to most gods. Most gods are like OP, so they're played a lot, or they're bad and they're not played a lot. Every once in a while, you get the situation where a god is really good but not played because people just don't like them. So that's pretty interesting. They talk about the community discussion and talking about whether there's any path to improve, from a lore perspective, from kind of that fun role play perspective, how to work in it better into his kit to make things seem to make more sense with his kit. So that's all great and wonderful. They come into basically the history of Odin, talking about basically his path through Smite. The blue line is his match count shown as a percentage of total matches. The orange is his win rate. Green is his ban rate. So you go down here and you can see how Odin has spiked over the years. Take a gander at green, which is his ban rate. Okay, not really banned at all, not really banned at all. April, whoop! Huge ban rate. Oh, okay, Odin's garbage again, garbage again, garbage again. Whoop! He's OP. Okay, garbage again, garbage again. Oh, he's OP. Down to present day below me, where you can see he's literally not banned at all. But you can see that his win rate is extraordinarily consistent. So you see his pick rate, go kind of up and down and up and down. It's been getting lower and lower. You see his ban rate spiking when he's considered OP for a little bit. And his win rate is just super consistent across the board. He's just always kind of been winning pretty good. So I think that's just a fun chart to look at right there. So what they are doing majorly, guys, with this Odin rework is they are reworking Odin's 3 and his 4. So for the most part, they are intending to not touch his passive, his 1, or his 2. So the bird bomb combo that is kind of standard about Odin is staying. And they're reworking how his 3, which is currently his spin to win slow, and his ultimate obviously being Odin Cage, changing how those work to make them feel better. So your bird bomb combo is still going to be there, bada bing, bada boom. Those will only be changed. Those will only be changed to fine-tune any balance with his new kit. So they might rework maybe the damage a little bit, could be a little cooldown thing here and there. But for the most part, his passive, his 1, and his 2 will remain the same. So for all of you Odin fans out there that like bird bombing, that like shielding and the jumping, all that good stuff, that's remaining the same. You don't have any problems. That part of the kit is going to remain the same moving into Season 7. Now, what will be changing, most significantly, is his 3. And his 3 sounds really, really cool. So, complete rework of this ability. When Odin fires Gungnir's Might, he raises his spear to a throwing position and begins channeling. As he channels, he will progress through 3 different runes, pulsing out damage to enemies around him, and slowing them each time he changes runes. Refiring this ability will cause Odin to throw the spear, and he'll gain a bonus effect based on the rune he was channeling at the time. So if it's the earliest rune, rune 1, you will pulse out an attack speed buff to himself and nearby allies, and deals damage. If he makes it to rune 2, he will become, his spear will become a homing projectile, will guaranteed hit the target, and will damage and slow them. And if you make it all the way to the 3rd rune, the longest channel time, you will stun the enemy god when you hit him with this ability. This is pretty cool. I like the idea of the longer you channel, the more cool stuff it does. It's fun from a lore perspective of Odin's spear being used as a weapon from range is kind of cool. And from an in-game perspective, it sounds like a very efficient, strong ability. A potential attack speed buff, homing missile, guaranteed damage, slows, stuns, all sorts of good stuff combined up, with your bird bomb. So theoretically, depending on how the stun, we don't know how long the stun is, but theoretically, you channel your 3, you slam somebody with it from the jungle, right? So you start channeling it in the jungle, right? You're playing Odin jungle, you're running through, you're channeling it, you gank the mid lane with your 3, you stun them, and then you bird bomb them because they're stunned and you can't miss. Could make Odin extremely, extremely efficient from a ganking jungler perspective. Depending on how that goes. Same thing for a support, running Odin support, ganking with that same type of mentality. Very exciting ability. His ultimate is interesting because it's a partial rework, but really changing how his ultimate is going to be perceived. His ultimate will still summon a ring of spears that blocks enemies in or out, but they're changing how the rules of his ultimate work. The ring is now an octagon with 8 individual walls. Think Cabrakan. Think 8 Cabrakan walls, okay? These walls can be broken individually by enemies who attack them. So you're literally going to be able to break down Odin wall by punching it, shooting it, whatever, just like a Kraken wall. You're going to be able to beat it down. So you can escape the cage without a phantom, without a jump. But enemy gods who leave the area over the wall or through an unbroken wall, think a phantom or a leap, any of those, they will be damaged by Odin itself, his spear, which will leave from the ring to hit enemies directly as they leave. So, if you break down the wall and walk out of Odin ult, you won't take any damage. It'll just have been you trapped inside the cage as long as it took you to break down the wall. But if you try to leave the cage by jumping or phantoming out or any sort of escape mechanism, Odin's spear is coming for your ass and it's attacking you and doing damage. So this is interesting because it's going to make Odin's cage less effective, say at like a team fight perspective of just keeping people trapped so your team doesn't miss any abilities. But it's going to make it really, really good for things like ganking, for 2v2 fights, any sort of Odin in a 1v1 fight. They're either stuck in your cage staying or they're leaving and taking more damage. It's definitely going to make Odin's ultimate more consistent. Instead of Odin's ultimate right now being like okay, they left my cage, why did I even bother using the ability? Or they're stuck in my cage, it's like the best ability in Smite. It's not going to have so much that like extreme two ends anymore. It's going to be a lot more consistent in its use of like it's kind of always good. It probably will have a lesser high end, but also a higher low end than it does right now. And those are the two abilities that they are reworking on Odin. So like I said, 1, 2 staying the same passive, all staying the same. That 3 becoming that sweet spear throw. The ultimate becoming this more consistent damage dealing ability that also isn't quite as frustrating for players to play against on the enemy team. I think these changes to Odin are exciting. I personally like Odin's kit right now. I don't have any problem with it. But he's obviously statistically unpopular. He's like bottom 10 popular gods. So I get why they're reworking him. From a lore perspective, I think these changes are a bunch of fun. From like a nerdy roleplay perspective, from an in-game mechanic perspective, I think that this will be really fun to play. In my head, channeling this spear as Odin and just chucking it at somebody is already a blast. I'm already having fun using his third ability from a hypothetical perspective. So I think this is going to skyrocket Odin's pick rate. Whether or not he becomes OP or whatever from a balance perspective, it's hard to know without knowing, like, how long does the cage last? How much damage does it do? How long do you have to channel the 3? It's impossible to know how good he's going to be without knowing the specific numbers. But from a fun perspective, I can't imagine that he's not going to increase a whole bunch in the fun department from these changes, which is great. So I'm excited for this Odin change. On the whole, I think these are great changes for Odin, and I think he's going to be in a much better spot with these changes, both from a pick perspective and a frustration level playing against perspective. Of course, that could be thrown out the window if they decide if you leave as ultimate, you take 900 damage. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, never mind. Odin's even more frustrating than he was beforehand. But they probably won't do something like that. Probably. But thank you guys for coming out today to the stream. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you guys that support us, whether it's by coming out and watching the YouTube videos, whether it's by liking and commenting, whether it's by coming out to the streams and following on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, coming out, smashing Twitch primes, man. All of the amazing things that you guys do to support the Twitchiest community. I appreciate it. Tomorrow, we will be talking about the magic item changes. I believe they released that developer update today. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow at the end of stream. All the changes upcoming for magic items. Hope to see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. I hope the start to your 2020s is great. I hope you have a great start to your year, to your decade. Hope it's better for everybody than 2019 was. And I'm looking forward to grinding out another year of Smite and all the other games that come our way this year, and just getting to hang out with you guys, making some sweet content, having some laughs, having some sub games, having a good time. Hope to see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, have a twitching day.